There we go.
Okay.
Now we're good to go. So today we have a packed fuel. We have a lot to discuss. We are in the middle of chapter Mem Daled 44, and yes.
If it's going to be a different methodology, and the way you describe it today kind of sounded like it's on the agenda.
The what again? I'm sorry.
That in the event that Korbanot will be brought again, will the methodology be the same? And you kind of indicated that will be discussed. It's to the best of my knowledge.
So I'm trying to understand, like, when you say methodology, so today we're getting into that stuff. So the elements of bringing a korban, according to this vision, are going to be the same, meaning there's going to be animal, it's going to be shechted, and all that stuff is still happening, the altar, the mizbeach, all that kind of stuff. I think that the question is a little bit bigger than that. Let's remember that Yechezkel prophesizes here about 14 years after destruction of the first temple. So when he's talking about the future Beit HaMikdash, he's talking about, like, in everybody's mind, we're talking about the second temple. Now, where was the methodology of bringing korbanot in the second temple the same as the first temple? Yes. So in retrospect, I'm going to say yes. However, as we know, Chazal, because of the fact that the second temple did not follow some of the descriptions of Yechezkel, therefore that led Chazal to this idea of third Beit HaMikdash, and so if we're going to look at the visions of Yechezkel in terms of the future Beit HaMikdash, then that goes back to the class that we had a couple of I don't know, maybe like a couple of weeks ago, that we talked about Rav Kook. We talked about like those visions over there, where it seems that according to those authorities, we're not going to have a the same methodology of bringing korbanot. Okay, so it really depends where you place that Beit HaMikdash. Yes. Karov. Correct. No. But that's the result. The result of that word kavod. We do that because we want to get close. Yes. Yeah.
Or every generation is completely different way. So how do we really know what we are going to solve?
I'm not so sure that what you're referring to. The korban is something very, very specific. And in the past, I gave the analogy for, when a kid comes to a parent and says, "I made a present for you," right? I made a card, I made a picture, I made whatever, something. Lately in my house, it's bracelets. I don't know why my house think that I'm going to wear them, but whatever. So they made that present for me. Obviously, that's their token of their appreciation or whatever, or they want to feel closer to me, and this is why they get upset when I'm not wearing the bracelet, because they feel that probably it's like some sort of it's adds to the connection or something like that. But is it indeed something that belonged to them? No. I mean, I bought, it's my money that bought the material, right, for the bracelet. So it's mine, but they're giving me that present. That creates that, right? It's the same thing. Like when I'm going to go to Beit HaMikdash, I'm going to sacrifice that bull or whatever that is. Everything is not mine, right? It's in Bechezkat. It's to me to hold onto something, but everything belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So when I go and I actually bring a korban, it's not that I'm actually okay. So that's my way of trying to get close to God. Now, how that works with the idea of korban is giving up on something. Yes, the idea here, I had that. Okay, I get it, like in a philosophical way, it's not mine to start with. But I now have a deficiency. I have less. I have one bull less. My daughter has less beads to make bracelet, right? This idea, I think from a psychological point of view, is saying, I'm willing to give this up because this closeness with you means so much to me. We're giving up because that's once that bull is on the altar, it's not coming back. It's dead. It's finished. Okay, you can't gain anything from it. This idea, look, I often talk about this idea when it comes to relationship, right? It's like, if you're in a relationship, you understand what it means, a korban. You understand you need to sacrifice all the time. And I don't care if it's a relationship with a spouse, with kids, with friends, with community, it doesn't matter. It requires, right? And at the end of the day, though, you're gaining. Correct. So you're gaining closeness, you're gaining something. Your life is better because of that. But you have, in empiric way, you have less. She doesn't have those beats. I don't have that bull. I need to give up things or time or source or resources in order to spend it on my spouse, on my kids, on whatever that is. Correct. So yes, I'm giving up. That's a korban, but I'm gaining that kirva, closeness. Make sense? Okay. Okay. So we started and we talked about in this chapter, in chapter 44. We talked about this idea of, remember, of the Kohanim Leviim, and all that change in the status of the Kohanim and the Leviim. We said that only the family of Tzadok is going to be the one that's going to be doing the sacrifices. We talked about the change in the status of the Leviim. We didn't really get into the nitty-gritty of that, but we understood that Shevet Levi was chosen after the sin of the golden calf. I'm just trying to review from last time, but we see the distinction between the Leviim and the Kohanim in their jobs in the Beit HaMikdash. Fine. What's interesting is that still that term, HaKohanim HaLeviim, right? And we say it like we see there, HaKohanim HaLeviim B'nei Tzadok. Okay, you need to make up your mind. We just said that there's a difference between the Kohanim and the Leviim, even though they're both from the same Shevet. Yeah, I mean, it's not only that, it's yes, Pasuk Tetvav. It's also, that term appears in the book several times. Now, we find that also in Sefer Dvarim. But are we talking about the Kohanim or are we talking about Leviim? What is going on here? Why that term, Kohanim that are Leviim? So I get it. The pshat is the Kohanim is also from the Shevet Levi, but there's got to be something more than that. You know what? In order to understand it better, we've got to understand the role of that group of people. First of all, is what the Torah says. Yorom mishpatecha leYaakov v'toratcha leYisrael. Job number one, teaching. Shevet Levi are the teachers. Shevet Levi were the teachers. There's the Torah, there's laws, there's do's and don'ts, and what do you do, all that kind of stuff. Is ben tamel tahor, ben chaya asher nechelet, v'chaya asher lo techelet, kashrut, Shabbat, whatever that is. All those laws. Somebody needs to teach the people. Whose job is that? Shevet Levi. Job number 2, yasimu k'torah v'apecha b'chalil mizbachecha. That group of people is also assigned with serving in Beit HaMikdash, doing actually the avodah, without getting into the nitty-gritty who's doing what. But if I, who is not from Shevet Levi, wants to go and do some of the avodah in Beit HaMikdash, I can't. Fine. So when we think about it, we think like we kind of like tend to forget the idea that their main job was actually teaching. They didn't have a nachala. They didn't have their portion in the land of Israel. They were scattered in 48 different cities everywhere. And those places were educational centers. These were the schools, these were the academies, these were the places where you actually went and learned. 48 different cities all over Israel. And then we understand, because they are teachers, because they are serving in the temple, they cannot make a living. They don't have land, so they can't be farmers. They're busy teachings all the time, so there can't be like whatever in business or whatever that is. So who is responsible for their economic welfare? Everybody else. This is why we have the Matnot Kehuna and Levia, i.e., we have all those gifts, whether in the field, whether in the sacrifices, that everybody is commanded to support the Levim and the Kohanim. If I have a field, I have to give Trumot and Maasot. I have Pe'ah. I have all those, right? All those taxes, let's call it, that I need, that those taxes are used to support the Kohanim and the Levim. Same goes for when I go to Beit HaMikdash, and I want to bring a Korban Todah, Korban Shlamim, Korban Chatat, pretty much any Korban except for Korban Olah. Parts of that Korban goes to the Kohanim and the Levim. Because, you know, you need to have a balanced diet, right? If they're going to get only from the farmers, they're not going to have any protein or whatever. So anyway, so this is how we support Shevet Levi. In exchange, they teach us. Why this is significant? And this is now I'm going to connect it to Yechezkel. This is significant because the king, the monarch, the government doesn't have any say about that. It means it's independent system that is directly between the people and Shevet Levi. The king cannot interfere in what is the matters, what's the subject, and how they're going to teach, what they're going to teach, all that kind of stuff. King has absolutely no power there. The king cannot change and determine, oh, you're not going to bring the peh, you're not going to bring those parts from the korban to the... None. It's completely separated. This is separation of, what do you call it in English? Sure. Thank you. This is the classic example of that. And therefore, and we saw it with Isaiah and Jeremiah, and when they had criticism and also Yechezkel, against the government, they're free to do so. You have three branches. You have the Navi, who basically tells the word of God. That's supposed to somehow translate into curriculum by the Kohanim, the Levim, right? They are in charge of delivering that message, teaching the word of God, the Torah, and the message from the prophets, if there's any updates, etc. And therefore, they're free. And since they are directly supported by the people, they're completely free from listening to the king. Okay? Now, let's go into, yes. No, no, that's not against God's wishes. It's, okay, here's the thing. It's yes and no. The Torah is very, very ambiguous about that. And it's a tremendous machloket among the Mefarshim, whether this is a mitzvah, a commandment that you're supposed to do, som tasim alecha melech, or it's a default. If you want to, I'm not happy with your choices, but I'm going to allow it. Okay, so these are the two. We're not gonna, we can't solve that. That's a ancient machloket. The Rambam deals with that. The Ramban, everybody deals with that. Okay, it's a class. The point is that the Torah does not object to that. It's perhaps not ideal, but does not object. And when I say king, by the way, it's not necessarily I mean a king. It can be any form of government. It could be the Nasi, the way Yechezkel calls the king. Could be a government. Could be a prime minister. Could be president. Could be shofet. Could be anything. It doesn't matter. The idea is that we have a separation. Okay. Let's go into further in the text. So we said that in addition to the change in the status of the Levim, it seems also that there's a change in what the people can do in terms of when they bring a korban to Beit HaMikdash. According to the Torah, if I bring korban todah, korban shlamim, whatever, if I bring the korban to Beit HaMikdash, I'm not talking about shalmei tzibur. I'm not talking about the tamid shel shachar, tamid shel arba. I'm not talking about the communal korbanot that are being sacrificed every morning and every afternoon. That's only the Kohen. I'm not that on behalf of everybody. I'm talking about my personal korban. Fine?
Yeah.
According to the Torah, I can come to Beit HaMikdash, bring the korban, and shecht it myself. If I know how to shecht the animal, I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah? If I'm a shochet, I know what to do. I can do it myself.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Now, from that point, the Kohanim take over, because only the Kohanim, for example, can take the blood and sprinkle that on the altar. The Kohanim can be the only ones that are going to take the particular parts and put them on the altar and burn them, whatever, all that technicality. But shechting is something that anyone from Israel can do. However, what is in our chapter? In our chapter, it says what? It's only הם ישחטו את העולה ואת הזבח לעם. It's further up. Hold on. No, that's not the same. No. It's well, wait. Where did I see it? I'll find it. Yes, thank you. Yud Aleph. The end of Yud Aleph. Thank you. Right in Pasuk Yud Aleph, we say that means that if I am not from Shevet Levi, I can't do that. Only they. Why this is significant? It's significant because that goes along with what we said last week. This change of atmosphere that we understand is going to be in that temple. The change of with the tendency, the change of approach that we said already in chapter 42 to create a greater separation. Remember, the problem was blurring of the boundaries. That was the problem in the temple. So in order to avoid that, Yechezkel here describes a reality in which there's a greater separation between the people and the temple, right? Because the result was in chapter 42 that the wrong people entered the temple. Not only did they enter, they did some of the work, right? The arelei lev, arelei basar. So you need to create these boundaries because that was the problem, the main problem with the temple. So on one hand, we have greater opening. We said, like, the temple is going to be open for anyone whose heart is circumcised, and we call even non-Jews to come and bring their sacrifices and pray to God. So it's open for everybody. But when it comes to the technicalities, when it comes to who's going to be doing it's not only the steps, who's going to do the work itself, we're going to leave it to the professionals. In other words, it's something, try to create a different atmosphere. The atmosphere is it's a house for everybody. We want everybody to come and feel comfortable. But at the same time, we're going to have the highest standards possible. And therefore, only the people who are worthy, only the people that are assigned can do the work. Okay, I'm going to say something that is totally politically wrong. So, for example, okay, here's the difference between Beth Jacob and different shuls. Okay, in different shuls, like let's assume that this is like a little shtibel, whatever, somewhere. So, if you belong there, you belong there. Then you come. If you don't, no one is going to go there if you're not part of that. And who goes and who actually does, who leads the davening, who gives the sermon, or whatever. Somebody, whatever, anyone can do it. It's not a big deal. It creates an atmosphere of, kind of a more laid back, less professional atmosphere. Standards are much lower. It's what's the difference? Okay, so this one doesn't really know how to daven. This one is really kind of boring speaker, but that's okay. It really doesn't matter. It's okay. We're here for the experience. Versus a place like that, where you have, first of all, it's open to everybody. We don't care what's your observance. We don't care what you do. We don't care how old are you. We don't care where you live. We don't care any of that stuff. If you want to come here, our doors are open, period. Anyone, anytime, period. That's number one. Number two, we have very high standards. So we have rabbis who actually qualified to be speakers, and they're going to give the sermon. We have a chazan He knows the Hebrew. He knows the tunes. He's got the right voice, I hope. So he's going to lead the services.
Yes.
This
Definitely.
is not theoretical at all here. This is why I can talk. So that's the difference, okay? We want that kind of like, we're open, we're inviting, we want everybody to, but because of that, we need to hold ourselves with the highest standard possible. Okay, inviting everybody doesn't mean that we need to lower our standards. It's the opposite. And that's, I think, like this is what, like, kind of in my mind, at least, what the atmosphere that we would like to, that Yechezkel is describing when he's, you know, going forward with the future temple. Now, I want to look at verses 15 and 16. We talked about that, Kohanim Alevim Bnei Tzadok, that particular family. Let's read those psukim, first of all. והכהנים הלוויים בני צדוק, אשר שמרו את משמרת מקדשי בתעות בני ישראל מעלי, המה יקרבו אליי לשרתני, ועמדו לפניי להקריב לי חלב אדם, נאום אדוני אלוהים. המה יבואו אל מקדשי, והמה יקרבו אל שולחני לשרתני, ושמרו את משמרתי. But the Kohanim, the Levites, descendants of Tzadok, who safeguarded the charge of my sanctuary when the children of Israel strayed from me, let them draw near to me to serve me. Let them stand before me to offer me fat and blood, the word of the Lord Hashem. They will come to my sanctuary and they will draw near to my table to serve me, and they will safeguard my charge. In the past chapter and earlier in this chapter, we had a criticism on the Leviim that were involved with Avodah Zarah. But here, it's the flip side. Those who were loyal to me, God says. There's a midah keneged midah here. The rest of the Leviim, rachaku me'alai. Pasuk Yud. They moved away from me. And therefore, they can't come near me. Lo yigshu elai lechahendi velageshet al kol kodashai. Pasuk Yud Gimel. Since they drew themselves far away from me, they removed themselves, they cannot come near me. However, the people, the family of Tzadok, asher shamru et mishmeret mikdashi, because they kept it, they safeguard. Right? How do you say it in English? They who safeguard the charge of my sanctuary, therefore, they will come closer to me and they will serve me. Bnei Tzadok, family of Tzadok. The rest of them, the rest of the Kohanim. So those who cause themselves to distance, those who distance themselves from God, going to be removed further. Those who drew themselves closer to God will get even closer to God, kind of a thing. Okay? Now we're going to go into the dress code of Bnei Tzadok. So verses 17 through 19. והיה בבואם אל שערי החצר הפנימית, בגדי פשתים ילבשו, ולא יעלה עליהם צמר, בשערתם בשערי החצר הפנימית והביתה. פערי פשתים יהיו על ראשם, ומכנסי פשתים יהיו על מותניהם, לא יחגרו ביזה. ובצאתם אל החצר החיצונה אל העם, יפשטו את בגדיהם אשר המה משרתים בם, והניחו אותם בלשכות הקודש, ולבשו בגדים אחרים, ולא יקדשו את העם בבגדיהם. It shall be that when they come to the gates of the inner courtyard, they shall wear linen clothes. Wool shall not be upon them when they serve inside the gates of the inner courtyard within. Linen turbans shall be on their heads, and linen breeches shall be on their loins. They shall not gird themselves when where one perspires. When they go out to the outer part of the courtyard, to the outer courtyard to the people, they shall remove the clothes in which they had ministered and leave them in the holy chambers, and they shall don their garments. They shall not mingle with the people while wearing their clothes. First of all, we see a couple of discrepancies between this and what we saw in the Torah. And if you remember, many months ago, we had a discussion, and we said that one of the reasons that there was a huge debate, and the Talmud talks about that, why there was a debate whether to include the book of Yechezkel in the Tanakh. The problem was those discrepancies. There's a difference between what the Torah says and what Yechezkel is describing. This is an excellent example for such discrepancy. The Torah says that the Kohanim supposed to wear their special garments bevoam el ol moed or begishtam el hamizbeach lesharet b'kodesh. When they come to ol moed, when they come to the tabernacle, or when they come to serve b'kodesh. Here, they are commanded to wear those special garments from sha'arei hachatzer hapnimit, from the outer courtyard. They're supposed to wear it before. Okay? That's number one. Number two is going to be only linen. Right? It says only linen. That's not what the Torah says. The Torah doesn't talk about only linen. The Torah talks about only linen for whom? The Kohen Gadol only on Yom Kippurim. Ktonet bat kodesh, ilbashu mechnasei bad, yol besaro, etc. So what is going on here? All of a sudden, so we understand the Torah says, okay, there's a special dress code only for the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. That's going to be the bad. We understand this is linen. Okay, fine. All of a sudden, here we hear about, every other Kohen supposed to wear those clothes all the time when they are serving. And not only that, they're going to start wearing those clothes even in an earlier stage when they're in the outer courtyard and not only when they are by the altar, like the Torah. So these are like discrepancies between the Torah and Book of Yechezkel. Because this is an example. In terms of laws against the Torah, and that's what the Torah says. Forget about Rashi. I'm not talking about Rashi. I'm talking about like the text itself. I'm talking about there's no Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu. None of them is mentioning even one halacha that is against the Torah. But here in Yechezkel, there's okay. So now, on Yom Kippur, when the Kohen Gadol, I understand why he needs to wear very simple, white, no fancy clothes, right? This is what we do on Yom Kippur also to mimic that. It's the kittel and whatever. And there's a notion of humbleness that even the Kohen Gadol is one of the kahal, right? And when he goes into Kodesh HaKodeshim, he takes out he needs to change his garment with the gold and everything to simple linen white clothes, right? But in the future, Yechezkel tells us that's going to be the requirement from all the Kohanim. Kind of underlying that notion is we're going to highlight simpleness. We're going to highlight that direct connection to God, that less of a pompous, less of a ceremonial aspect of the temple, less fancy, less, all that stuff. Okay? Now, we said in Pasuk Yutet that when they go to the outer courtyard, they need to change their clothes and leave them in the chambers. Why? In order lo yekadshu et ha'am bevigdeihem. So they're not going to sanctify the people with their clothes. What does it mean? Sanctify the people with their clothes. So Radak says the following: Ki im yig'u et ha'am bevigdei kehuna shehem kodesh, yireh sheha'am kedoshim kamohem. So Radak has an interesting approach. He said, sometimes, how do you say it in English? That the clothes make the person, something like that. That's the fear. The fear that, oh, I see the Kohen in those fancy clothes, in the specific clothes that are limited to the process of the avodah in the temple. He comes and schmooze with me now. We're now buddies. Remember, in many of the korbanot, for example, some of the meat goes to the owner, some of the meat goes to the kohanim. So it's not inedible. There's a chance that they're having lunch together after bringing the sacrifice, even, right? Or they're schmoozing. It says, "Thank you very much for your service, what you've done." Give him a tip. Whatever. I'm making this up. But the point is that all that schmooze is happening, and if I'm doing that with my clothes as the same clothes that I used in the Kodesh, it might give that wrong impression that me, the owner, or the people, we're important. The Kohen comes to talk to us as like he's not even changing his clothes. Remember what we talked about, this idea of blurring the boundaries and this need to create a greater separation. I'm changing my clothes before I come to you. I'm going to say another thing that is politically incorrect and wrong. Seems like the theme today. Shabbat is like when davening is over, and many times, like, so people come and everybody wants to say Shabbat Shalom, especially to me, to the rabbi, whatever, and like shmooze and I have a very strict rule. And it's, by the way, it's always a challenge, because you want to be able to speak with everybody, greet everybody. And some people have no patience. They don't stay for the Kiddush. They just, service is over and they're out, right? So you want to make sure that you have a chance to speak with them. But on the other hand, I'm still with my talit. I'm not wearing a talit when I want to greet you. I wore a talit because I was in the service. It's part of the ritual. I need to create that separation. So my practice so when I'm in the sanctuary, I will talk to people, I'll greet people, all the kind of stuff with my talit on. I will never leave my talit on when I go to Jacob's garden for the Kiddush. I will stop in my office, I will put my talit down, and then I'm going to go there to continue the schmoozing.
Are you going to bed?
Yes. My talit, because I'm still in the middle of the davening. No, it's the same thing. I will greet people also in Chappelle Sanctuary, or when I'm davening here at YP or in Spark or whatever. But I'm saying when I go just for the schmoozing, just to greet people, it's after the service, I'm going to Jacob's garden, that I will take off my talit. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about, I switch gears. I'm not in the davening place anymore. Okay. So this is one idea. How come to explain what Radak is talking about, right? This is why change your clothes before you go and schmooze with the people. That's number one. But I think that there's like something else going on here. Okay, you got to have some patience with me here. I'm not so sure exactly what it means, but that term, it bothers me. The term, the language it says like this. Right? And they change, I mean, Pasuk Yutet, and they change to the different clothes. V'lo yekadeshu et ha'am bevigdehem. If you're sensitive to the Hebrew, I mean, and lest they will sanctify the people through or with their clothes. It seems perhaps that there's something in the clothes. In the future, it means that those clothes has some sort of a sanctity in them. I don't know exactly what it means, but they have some sort of a level of sanctity. In Judaism, we have two types of holy objects, right? I have an object that I use for a particular mitzvah, and when the time of the mitzvah has passed, it has no sanctity anymore. Like, for example, so I use my lulav and etrog on Sukkot. But once I'm done, Sukkot is over, I can discard that. Right? Do it in a dignified way. I'm not gonna whatever. I'm gonna put it in a plastic bag, put it, whatever. Right? If I'm wearing a tzitzit or a talit and it's torn, it's bad, whatever, I can't. Right? So I can discard that. That's one type of object. So it's limited to the particular kedusha that it has. It's because of the function that it has. If the talit doesn't function as a talit anymore because it's not kosher, because if I can't, make the bracha on the lulav because it's not Sukkot anymore, then it's just whatever, a fruit. It's just a piece of garment. The other type is like Sefer Torah, for example, or Tefillin. It's holy. By its nature, it was written for the purpose of that. So yes, I mean, at some point, for example, if a Torah is not kosher, I can't use it for the mitzvah of reading Torah. But I can't discard that. I need to bury it. Right? I need to bury a Torah that cannot be fixed. So it has this sanctity to it, and it was written with that premise that is going to be used as an object of mitzvah, and therefore it has that holiness.
Mhm.
It seems to me that those clothes are making that shift between the two. So those clothes, when the Torah talks about them, they're like the clothes are used for that action. So when I'm not doing the sacrifice, it is just regular linen clothes. But it seems that they're making that transfer later on in the future. Perhaps they're going to have this imminent kedusha in them. There's some sort of a kedusha in them, and therefore it continues even if I'm not bringing a sacrifice at that point. And therefore, because they have that kedusha, I can't just schmooze with other people while wearing those clothes. Right? Even the Sefer Torah Sefer Torah, even if that is puzzle, I can't just use it as scrap paper. I can't. But an etrog, after Sukkot, I can cut it and make it into a jam if I want, right? That's the difference. So perhaps there's something that happens, some sort of a shift in the status of those. If you don't like it, scratch that. Just a theory. Just a theory. Okay. Interesting pasuk is the next pasuk. Haircut. בראשם לא יגלחו, ופרע לא ישלחו, כסום יחסמו את ראשיהם. So it seems no news here. It's exactly like the Torah says in Vayikra, לא יכרכו כרוכה בראשם, ופאה זקנם לא יגלחו. Okay, then, but ופרע לא ישלחו seems like, how to translate, let's do the English. I forgot, I apologize, I didn't do it in English. They shall not shave their heads, nor shall they allow them to grow wild. Now, shaving is like something that I understand it, just like the Torah, but to grow wild, this is something that is applicable in the Torah only to the Kohen Gadol. It's not only for the rest of the Kohanim. They can have a ponytail even if they want. You know, want to go? You want? Maxine doesn't like it. A Kohen with a ponytail. She doesn't like it. Okay, but it's not okay, right? In the Torah, go in Vayikra, chapter 21. So it seems that there's like again another example for this upgrade, so to say, of the Kohanim.
Yeah.
You know, we're more strict with the future Kohanim in a similar way that we are strict with the Kohen Gadol. Okay, that prohibition was not for all the Kohanim, that they can let their hair grow wild, whatever that means, right? That was only for the Kohen Gadol. Here come Yechezkel said, no. It's applicable for all the Kohanim. Next. פסוק כ"א, ויין לא ישתו כל כהן בבואם אל החצר הפנימית. Again, this is also, the Torah talks about that. It says לכהנים, ויין ושכח על תשת אתה ובניך איתך בבואכם אל אוהל מועד. But it's another example where the prohibition is expanded. It's not only, the Torah talks about the Kohen that comes to Oel Moed, the Kohen that comes to serve, to bring korbanot, right? Here Yechezkel talks about even if you come into the compound. It's different. The Torah talks about Kohen who comes to do the sacrificial work. That Kohen cannot drink alcohol. However, if I'm there and I'm just coming to check the schedule, if I'm coming to whatever, just to take care of the wood or whatever work it is that is not connected, is not bringing the sacrifices, it seems that I could drink before that. Here, Yechezkel says, no. Once you come to if you are planning of coming into the compound of the temple, you cannot drink anymore. So we're more strict. Next pasuk is another example. The pasuk of Beth says, "Ve'almana u'grusha lo yikchu lahem le'nashim, ki im betuלות mizera Beit Yisrael, ve'ha'almana asher tiyeh almana mikohen yikachu." According to the Torah, Kohen may not marry a divorcee, right?
Yeah.
What about a widow? They're allowed to.
Oh.
Who is the only one who is not allowed to marry a widow? Is the Kohen Gadol, is the high priest. Comes Yechezkel and says in the future, all the Kohanim. So that's another example. It's a fourth example already where we take the Kohanim and we I don't know if it's an upgrade or not, whatever you want to call it, but we bring their status to the same as previously was reserved for the Kohen Gadol only. No, we're not there today. No. It hasn't changed. We're not following that reality of the Yechezkel. No, because the third temple was not built yet. I don't know if there's going to be the halacha on the third temple. I have no idea. Okay, now the next two verses, 23, 24, again, some of the roles that, some of the jobs that the Kohanim are going to do. 22, no, 23, 24. ואת עמי יורו בין קודש לחול, ובין טמא לטהור יודיעום. ועל ריב והמה יעמדו למשפט, במשפטי ישפטוהו, ואת תורותיי ואת חוקותיי בכל מועדיי ישמורו, ואת שבתותיי יקדשו. They shall instruct my people concerning the difference between the holy and ordinary, and they shall inform them of the difference between contaminated and clean. Concerning a disagreement, they shall stand in judgment and shall adjudicate them according to my laws. They shall safeguard my teachings and my decrees regarding all my appointed times, and they shall sanctify my Shabbat. We talked about that the main job of the Kohanim is to teach. And he's saying that, right? Yoru ben kodesh lechol, ben tameh letahor. You need to know that's kosher, that's not kosher, that's Shabbat, that's not Shabbat. You can do that, you can't do that. What do you do? Okay, fine. And it's very, very similar to what the Torah talks in chapter 10 of Vayikra. Pretty much, it's the same language. Verse 24 adds another dimension here. Hold on, I don't see any problem. But the Kohanim are going to be also judges. And that's also something that we see in the Torah, right? The Torah says, Ki palem chadavar lamishpat. People have an argument, they want to go into a trial, the kamta ve'alita. You're going to go into you're going to go to particular places where the court is. The court is located. Fine. You're going to go to the Kohanim, the Leviim, the judge. Okay, so far so good. Kohanim and Leviim, they have, in addition to be teachers, they're going to be also judges. Fine. However, at the end of the book, we have something that we don't see in the Torah. ואת תורותיי ואת חוקותיי בכל מועדיי ישמורו ואת שבתותיי יקדשו. Kohanim are going to be in charge of what? Shmirat Shabbat and the Moadim and the holidays. Keeping the Shabbat and the holidays. That's a new thing. That's not in the Torah. That they're going to be some sort of I don't know exactly what it means, whether it's in like a Shabbat police or something. I have no idea exactly what it means. But the point is that they're in charge of that. I would assume that it's probably when it comes to L'chot Shabbat and if somebody needs to be judged for that stuff, that's going to be part of their job. Yes. The what? Yeah. Well, that's part of the teaching. We're talking about in the context of judging, of being a judge. Teaching, I understand. But to be as a judge, specifically in the laws of Shabbat. A judge can judge. That's their job. Right? That's their job. The judge is the person who knows the law, knows how to interpret the law, the person who hopefully understands the circumstances and make a verdict according to the law. Now, it makes sense. If the Kohanim are the people who actually teach the law, they should be able, they should be the ones also to act as judges.
Right.
Because they know the law.
Exactly.
That's exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And the shofet and the judge supposed to give a verdict according to what he sees, the Gemara says, according to the evidence that he sees, according to the way he interprets the law. That's exactly it. And by the way, even in our reality, that's exactly it. When you go to a rabbi and you have a question, the answer that you're going to get is based on the understanding of the rabbi of that law. You might end up with a different answer when you ask a different rabbi.
Mm-hmm.
The Beit Din, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's move into Pasuk Kaf Hey. Kaf Hey, Kaf Vav, Kaf Zayin. What do you mean? Yeah. It means many laws. Torah is also law. Chukot, Torot, Chukim, Torot, Mishpatim. The Torah talks about it all the time. It's teachings. Torah is teachings. Torah is from the word Torah, teachings. Okay? Okay. ואל מת אדם לא, פסוק כ"ה, ואל מת אדם לא יבוא לטומאה, כי אם לאב ולאם ולבן ולבת לאח ולאחות אשר לא הייתה לאיש יטמאו. ואחרי טהרתו 7 ימים יספרו לו, וביום בו אל הקודש ולחצר הפנימית לשרת בקודש, יקריב חטאתו נאום אדוני אלוהים. So Pasuk Kaf is what we see in the Torah. Right? Kohanim are not allowed to become tameh to a corpse, except for like to touch a dead body, to be in contact with a dead body, except for the immediate family. But here in the next two psukim, there's a little bit of differences. There's discrepancies. So Pasuk Vav deals with tahara, right? And the simple understanding is the process of using the red heifer, para aduma. This is how we purify ourselves from tum'at met, right? Remember that story? Somebody is tameh because they've been in contact with a dead body. Not our time. Our time, we're all tameh. But in the times of the temple. So there's the para aduma, right? It's the red heifer. That's the process. Being sprinkled, whatever, with the water. This is how you become tahor again. Fine. Here, there's something different. So the Kohanim, after completing that process of the sprinkling and whatever, the red heifer and all that kind of stuff, they need to count 7 days before they become tahor. That's not in the Torah. The Torah says meaning that day at night, after Shkia, the Kohen is tahor again and go back to the avodah in Beit HaMikdash, in the Mishkan, actually, the church, whatever. Here, Yechezkel makes it a much stricter law. You have to wait another week in order to become tahor and be able to go back into the avodah. The other detail that is different is that he needs to bring a korban chatat. This is something that we don't see in the Torah. Radak explains, "V'zeh yihyeh chidush la'atid." There's one of those things that's going to be different in the future. Yes, Radak in his, by the way, in his approach altogether says, yeah, things are going to be different in the future. the laws of Tumat Tara, the laws of the Kohanim, the laws of a lot of the Korbanot, all that, it's going to be different. So don't get excited over the fact that it doesn't match the Torah exactly. It's not a big deal. Things can be different. This is one of them. Fine. I want to finish the chapter. The next two psukim, Kafchet and three psukim, Kafchet, Kaftet, and Lamed. והייתה להם לנחלה אני נחלתם, והאחוזה לא תיתנו להם בישראל אני אחוזתם, המנחה והחטאת והאשם המה יאכלום, וכל חרם בישראל להם יהיה, וראשית כל ביקורי חול וכל תרומת קול, מכל תרומותיכם לכהנים יהיה, וראשית הריסותיכם תיתנו לכהן, להניח ברכה אל ביתך. The priesthood will be a heritage for them. I am their heritage. For you shall not give them a possession in Israel. I am their possession. Remember, we talked about that they had no nachala. They shall eat the meal offering, the sin offering, and the guilt offering, right? They need protein. And any consecrated property in Israel will be for them. Income. All the first fruits of every kind and all teruma of any kind, all of your teruma gifts shall be for the Kohanim. And you shall give the first portion of your dough to the Kohen. A remnant of that we still have today when you do Afrashat Chala. Since we don't have the Kohanim, we don't do all that kind of stuff. You throw it away. But we don't use that. This idea of Afrashat Chala, even today, it's a remnant of that. Right? Every time you bake a certain portion or whatever, you take a little bit of that, belongs to the Kohen. To bring a blessing to rest upon your home. The Kohanim shall not eat any carrion, not meat from a fatally wounded animal or fowl or of livestock. The connection between Matnot Keuna, all the gifts that the Kohanim are receiving, and having a portion of the land of Israel, we already know from the Torah, we already mentioned that. And we see a similarity and we see the parallelism between what the Torah talks and what Yechezkel is talking about when it comes to all those gifts. The only thing, and the laws end, so here there's no discrepancies. The laws of the Kohanim end with Pasuk Lamed Aleph. Kol nevela utrefa min ha'of ve'abehema lo yochlu ha'kohanim. The Kohanim shall eat. Oh, I just read it in English. That they are not allowed to eat nevela utrefa. Also repeat what the Torah says. What's interesting is that we're not allowed to eat nevela utrefa, regardless whether we're Kohanim or not. But the Kohanim has an additional prohibition. So in other words, if I eat nevela, then I violated prohibition. But if the Kohen eats a nevela, the Kohen violated two prohibitions. Because it's the regular prohibition of a Jew is not allowed to do that, and the prohibition of a Kohen who is not allowed to do that. Now, 3 minutes, just tiny thing. That particular section from Pasuk Tetvav till the end of the Perek is also the Haftarah chosen for Parashat Emor. Okay? Now, why that particular Haftarah was chosen, we understand. It's the laws of the Kohanim. That's what the Torah talks about. The connection is very evident. With a couple of ideas. It's after 12. Okay, we're going to do that next week. The couple of ideas that I think we need to highlight, and it's going to take a couple of minutes. It's going to be like also like a nice opening for the following chapter. Okay. So next week, same time, same place. And we'll continue. Yes, Chaya. Again, what? Yeah. Yes. Widow? Why not? That's in the future. Kohen Gadol is the only one who is not. No, Kohanim are allowed to marry a widow. No, no.
Okay, so today, that's the point.
Correct, but we're not in the times of the third temple. They're not talking about today. Everything he talks about is in the time of the third temple. Yeah, what? Correct. Yes, but and I know a lot of people who violate Shabbat, and a lot of people who don't eat kosher, and a lot of people who, and I'm sure they're going to find also a rabbi is going to tell you that you can do X, Y, and Z also when it comes to kashrut, and some rabbis will tell you no, and some rabbis will tell you it's okay to eat X, Y, and Z, and some rabbis will tell you no. So you can find variety of opinions about anything. The fact that a rabbi gave an okay for something, it doesn't. That rabbi either thought it's okay, or they found some sort of a loophole, or I don't know. That's you need to discuss with that rabbi. But and I can give you also a list of a lot of rabbis who are going to tell you that there's like a lot of our practices, are as prohibitions are permissible on Shabbat.
They got the permission by signing 100 remarks. And then say, I got the permission to be married for the first moment. That's politics.
Correct. That's politics. That I'm talking about, like, according to the law, a Kohen cannot marry a divorcee. Now, is it happening in reality? Some rabbis give all sorts of permissions for that. Yes. How they justify it? Then you need to ask them. Oh, she was not really divorced. Oh, he's not really a Kohen. Oh, there's a specific circumstance that allowed that. That in every aspect of life that happens all the time. There's there's the law and there's the reality. Sometimes it's not exactly the same. I'm not trying to justify them. Like I didn't, if I did a case like that, then you can come. But yes.
Why is this specialty of the Kohen?
The Kohen is going to marry a garush? I don't get it.
What's a garush?
Okay, maybe you can do it.
What?
Maybe.
I'm trying to understand the. It's just this. No, but it's a status. No. Why? It's just reality. The reality is that that woman got a divorce. How else are you going to call it? No, from her husband. Anyone. What do you mean is in category? I don't understand. Yes. right?
What is his position or what is his status according to the law?
Nothing. He's, oh, you can call him divorced also. Who cares? What's the difference? No.
Even why only the wife, but not the man?
Because she can continue her life with in any forms.
When the Kohen himself can get.
Of course he can get a divorce.
And if he married.
Yes.
And divorce, how can they marry?
Because a kahuna goes from a father to son. The kahuna comes from father to son. It's not like, the fact that he is married or not married, divorced or not, it makes no difference. He's still his father's son.
He has no limitation.
He has no limitation, but she has no limitations. So what?
It doesn't change the status of the marriage. I think that's.
No.
Yeah. She's asking if the government, does he have any limitation?
No, he doesn't. It's part of it's part of the reality. It's part of the reality. Like in biblical law, men could have even several wives.
Yeah. Exactly. So, could a Cohen have several wives?
Yes.
So he, I mean, to me, it's not pure.
Why what to do with purity?
I
Purity
don't-
is not what's in our mind. Purity is something that is very, very specific.
Well,
Has nothing to do with purity. Guys, I said it a million times, and I'm going to say it very quickly again. You got to understand that the Torah was written you need to look at that in context. Okay? I get it. It's not fair. It's not perfect reality. Why she should be punished and have a smaller pool. I get it. I get it. But it's not the issue is not her. The issue is the next husband. He is not allowed to marry. It's not about her. It's about the next guy, the next Kohen. He is not allowed to marry a divorce. I get it. It's not fair. No, it's not about the blemish. It's not a blemish. It's nothing to do with a blemish. She's limited to about 7%, it's 7% of the population. That's all. She still have 93%. Anyway, everybody, see you next week, same time, same place, and we will delve into the next chapter.
okay.